Why do skeptics come into our lives, criticize our spiritual values as intuitive empaths, disappear, and then come back later? Hi, my name is Leah Chantel, and today I'm talking about why skeptics come back, even though it doesn't make sense to us as intuitive empaths, later when they've disappeared for a while. And this can depend on the context and the situation, and I'm going to get into all the different reasons why they disappear and why they come back after we do the right thing as empaths and we ignore them. So there are two scenarios that could happen here. So the first scenario is that the skeptic is being chased by the intuitive empathic people, and we're trying to argue about why we're right or why they should believe what we believe. And when that kind of argument happens, we're definitely going to chase them away for sure. And, even if you've done that, that's not always a bad thing. If they were arguing with you and being very critical of your belief system, it's like somebody coming to your flower garden and stomping all over it. If you chase them out of your life accidentally, maybe that's not a bad thing, because maybe you shouldn't have been seeking their approval anyway. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about the second scenario, about what happens when we ignore skeptics who are being really rude and offensive, and they disappear for a while from our lives, and then they come back later. What do we do then? So what are the reasons why they may have disappeared from our lives in the first place? So first of all, I'm going to talk about when intuitive empathic people are actually a little bit dark. And I've talked about dark empaths in the past, and people say they don't believe that they exist, but they actually do. And it's quite simple how empathic intuitive people turn dark. So it's when we don't take good care of ourselves and we don't follow our own value system. So let's say you believe in spirituality and maybe you talk to spirit, you're a medium, but then you stop meditating or you stop looking after your chakra system, which I've talked about in the past. Or maybe you're not protecting yourself when you're calling in your guides or your spirit and you feel kind of tired. Maybe it could be as simple as you're not getting enough sleep, you're working too hard. That's when we tend to go to the dark side. That's when the darker aspects of our personality start to come out. So when we don't take good care of ourselves, that's when we're more likely to be irritable. That's when somebody might say something that we disagree with, and then we're just like trying to get in there with our argument and fight back. And that's actually the wrong thing to do. That's the thing we do when we're not meditating or we're very tired. We argue back with people who are offensive or who disagree with us. Sometimes people are just trying to have a healthy argument with us and just show that they disagree, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, as intuitive empathic people, we probably disagree with a lot of other people that we don't agree with watching the news, or we don't agree with eating certain foods that other people find normal. So if it's a healthy argument and people disagree, there's nothing wrong with that, but are they being toxic? Are they going too far? Are they saying you're a fake or a phony or saying something that's personally attacking you? That's when they go too far. And that's when we get into that situation where we should be ignoring that skeptical person, and then they exit our lives. So if we've been accidentally getting argumentative or even just trying to get their approval or too much of their attention, like, hey, I'm being open-minded and I'm trying things a different way and I'm trying to see things from your perspective. If we tried too hard to impress the skeptical person, that can actually cause a break in our relationship too. We really need to stay in our own lane as intuitive empaths and take really good care of ourselves rather than try to impress other people. And we can do that in subtle ways by texting a lot or calling a lot, and sometimes we're just thinking we're trying to be thorough, we're trying to do a good job or be a good person, be a good friend. Maybe this friend has been in our lives for a while, so we try a little harder, but it actually messes things up more. I've done this sometimes with really old friends and texted it a lot, and then I realized, I really should have left them alone. Other people, I'm a little bit more disciplined and I know not to do that, but sometimes those really old relationships, those old friendships or something like that that's been in your life for a while, those can be tricky to deal with. And it's actually better when people are misbehaving, even if they've been in your life for a long time, you need to leave them alone. So the sooner you can do that, the better. But sometimes that's why people exit our lives. Now, the next thing that causes people to exit our lives is that they could have been very codependent. Maybe they were the ones chasing after us for approval. Maybe they were trying too hard to become like us, and we thought that this wasn't really them, like it wasn't really working for them. And so it's okay to be different in our relationships. It's okay for a spiritually minded person to be friends with a more skeptical person. But when we try too hard to become like the other person, that's where things can get a little bit messy and codependent in our relationships, because somebody's chasing after the other person for approval. And that's not where we want to be. So that could be the other reason that maybe we decided to not talk to that person anymore or not continue the relationship with them, because there was some conflict there. Now, having said that, people can have different opinions and different styles of beliefs and blend them nicely into a relationship when they respect each other's beliefs and they speak respectfully to the other person's point of view, but they don't try to be like the other person, and they also don't attack the other person. That's where you've got a really healthy balance going on in the relationship, and you can keep the relationship going. Having said that, if you're trying too hard to seek approval or the other person's trying too hard, then that's where the relationship can get a little bit messed up. And so those are sort of the reasons why people will stop talking to each other from opposite belief systems. Now, when you leave people alone who are skeptical, often what they will do is they will come back around. And so what do we do when they come back around? It's a good question. It depends how toxic the dynamic is in the first place. So did you have a heated argument one time and really that's forgivable, and both of you just needed some time to settle down and cool off? Then maybe the relationship is workable. It could be. Having said that, if there was a toxic dynamic that you just never resolved over a long period of time and you kept fighting and fighting over the same thing, then that breakup, makeup cycle can be very exhausting, whether they're your friend, your family member, or a partner. So you may want to consider just not talking to them anymore when they come back into your life. And they can come back when you appear to be doing really well in life, when you're following your spiritual principles, when you're creating content online, or you're writing, or you've got a new job that's really good, or you've got a new apartment, or whatever it is, a new thing going on in your life, new partner. That's sometimes when the old people might come back around and wonder what's going on with you. And that's when you have to be very strong and kick these people out of your life. It's like very tempting to go back to an old relationship after your life gets better, but if it had been toxic in the past, it's really better to leave those relationships alone and to have the self-discipline to do so. It's just going to have a really destructive effect on your life if you let them back in. Now, the reason why people come back around when you do have a separation is that it's the scarcity principle. When you go away and then maybe you become a stranger or you become somebody who's releasing videos online or something like that, people want to get back into your presence again. They want to come back into your life. And so they'll start trying harder to get you back. And that can be very tempting, because usually in the process of them trying to get you back, they can be telling you a lot of compliments. Maybe they're offering like something of value. Maybe they want to buy you something or offer you something in return for your relationship. And so you have to be really strong in those moments. It's definitely more valuable to attain something that you've earned rather than something that you've been given by somebody who doesn't even agree with your values. Like, it's okay if they want to be in your life and you respect each other's values, but if there had been a toxic relationship and they didn't believe in you, then it's better to leave them alone and don't go back. And so these are the reasons why people will kind of come out of your life and then they'll come back in. But there's one more reason that I want to talk about in terms of being an empathic person. Sometimes we just don't walk our talk. It's as simple as that. So we may say that we're being a really good person and we have all these spiritual beliefs, but then when push comes to shove, and something happens out in society, like maybe you yell at somebody in a traffic jam, or you nearly run over somebody's kid or something like that. Even if you have all those spiritual practices, if you don't apply them properly and be a good, upstanding person in society, then they're kind of useless. Like, your spiritual practices should be enhancing your moral character and your judgment, and you should be a responsible citizen in society who is doing the right thing according to society. I know as an intuitive, you shouldn't say right and wrong. Having said that, there are standards of good behavior that people expect out in society. Like, you don't scream at a person in a grocery store when the line is too long, or you don't throw something at the waiter when you're in a restaurant and they don't do a good job. It's okay to send something back, but don't be abusive towards the waiter, right? If you're doing things like that, then that's not a good representation of your spiritual belief system, and nobody's going to trust you. You see what I mean? And so that's the other reason why sometimes people will exit our lives, because sometimes the skeptics can call the more spiritual people out on their crap, and they're right. You know, we have to live up to whatever we're trying to practice in real life. Otherwise, it's not going to be very helpful for anybody else to follow. I hope that makes sense, and I hope you enjoyed my video today about why skeptical people exit the lives of intuitive empaths, how we can have healthy relationships together, and the reasons why they come back. It's a lot to do with scarcity. And, you know, skeptical people may not understand this intellectually. They may think they disagree with spiritually empathic people, but the interesting thing is they actually really enjoy being in the presence of spiritually empathic people, because we are kind and we are empathic, nice people. And so they feel good around us. And so even though they may think they have an opposite belief system, they actually really like being in our presence and they like being around us. And, you know, if you have a healthy relationship, that's perfectly okay. I know lots of spiritual influencers who have atheistic husbands, and, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as he's being kind and he's being respectful and a good partner, that's okay. So I hope you enjoyed my video today. If you wanted to learn a little bit more about my self-love Facebook group, I want to post more regularly about all the books and things that I read that are really helpful and instrumental in self-care. And so if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check out my description below and look at my self-love Facebook group. Or if you're interested in coaching, definitely send me a DM. I'd be very happy to get in touch with you on Facebook. And if you have any other questions, definitely DM me that as well. And I hope you're all having an amazing week. Take care, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye now.